All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. The name of the video is America's Fallen Cities, Atlantic City. This is coming from the channel Alexander Ratmanez. All right, let's check it out. Let's jump into it. Let's go and check this out, guys.
This is Atlantic City,
Okay.
a barren, creepy, and forgotten resort town on the Jersey Shore, dominated by empty lots, surface parking, decrepit houses, and monstrous failing casinos. With occasional glimpses of better times, this city may be the most depressing in America, and a true encapsulation of the postmodern world.
All right, so really quickly, guys. I mean, I went to Atlantic City when I was much younger. Stayed at the Showboat Hotel and Casino with my mother and grandmother and my father at this time. Intriguing, absolutely. But the thing is like a lot of places like this, they're kind of destined to fail. I think in the first place, what's here? Gambling exclusively, like that generally. I mean, tourists are going to come, fly in, flock into the area, but they're going to leave once they're not going to come here and build anything, bro. They're not going to. For what? They're just here to gamble. So I can imagine how this would be an absolute miserable place to actually live, right? But
Declining population, high crime, and poverty define this former gem of the mid-Atlantic, a continued freefall from grace, because this
Showboat.
was
That was it in the back.
Atlantic City.
Yeah, I went in the '90s. Got my first saltwater taffy from the boardwalk.
A booming tourist town, Atlantic City was home to grand and glorious hotels, the most famous boardwalk in the world, popular beaches, high-profile events, and an impressive nightclub scene. The town's streets were lined with beautiful Americana architecture that was very charming, even for Americans back then, when every town was built classically. Simply put, Atlantic City was America's favorite getaway. Atlantic City had always been a resort town from when it was first established in the mid-19th century. It was meant to be an affordable option for Philadelphians to have a beach vacation, as tourism was growing in the US at the time, and urban residents wanted to escape the dense city to have an outdoor experience. A rail line was laid out in a straight line from Philadelphia to the South Jersey Shore, and there was Atlantic City. By the 1870s, rail was bringing in over 500,000 tourists to Atlantic City annually, with trains dropping off visitors next to luxurious hotels by the beach.
Hey, bro, if you watch this, you did very well with putting this video together, guys. I love the scoring also.
It was also around this time that the boardwalk was built, in order to prevent as much sand as possible from being dragged into the hotels. This boardwalk wound up being a resounding success, and Atlantic City's popularity exploded, with new train lines bringing in people from all over the country.
Great research.
As the
also.
decades continued and we approached the 1920s, large grandiose hotels lined the boardwalk, along with an array of small businesses and attractions. And the city was referred to as the nation's playground, and in some cases, the world's playground, which was only exacerbated by prohibition, as many of the back rooms of restaurants and nightclubs were known for illegal drinking. And in the off-season, Atlantic City was known for hosting big events such as Miss America and large conventions in Boardwalk Hall, one of the largest arenas in the country at the time, when it was built in 1929. The thriving community had theaters, prominent clubs, and sprawling piers, but the actual locals had a neat experience as well. Beautiful row houses on narrow roads with local shops and amenities in walking distance. And the main streets like Atlantic and Pacific Avenues were built up with beautiful churches and municipal buildings as good as anywhere else in the country at the time. Atlantic City is where saltwater taffy was invented and where Monopoly got all of its property names from. And so, where did it all go wrong? Well, it boils down
Really? I never knew that. Monopoly. This is where they
all of its property
that's
names
obvious.
from. And so, where did it all go wrong? Well, it boils down to a few
Really?
things. Firstly, amusement parks like Great Adventure, Disneyland, and Disney World started to become more popular for families for weekend and summer getaways,
Yeah, not anymore.
meaning places like Atlantic City were losing out. Also, cheap airfare had also become a thing, and so people, particularly Northeasterners, started to vacation in places much farther away from home, such as Europe, Florida, California, and Vegas. Additionally, once the car became the primary mode of travel rather than rail, Atlantic City had to adjust and hence raised many of its tight-knit blocks to make way for parking lots, which, as we discussed several times on this channel, seriously ruptures the vitality and enjoyability of places. But what the rise of individual car ownership and a rising middle class of the mid-20th century also meant was people's outdoor vacations were now in much more remote locations, perhaps in vacation homes or timeshares. On top of this, suburbanization also meant that many of the residents fled Atlantic City for a larger house and a longer commute, meaning whatever wealth the casinos generated no longer trickled down to Atlantic City directly, but more so to the far out suburbs.
I can imagine.
All of this new competition meant Atlantic City had to expand beyond its original model.
Yeah, that's why I'm honestly surprised that people even live there.
And so it went from being a beach resort town to a casino town.
Right here, the Taj Mahal and the Showboat. And I used to always, I remember when I was really young, I used to always stay on this side and look out. I remember a storm came in, a crazy storm came in one time. And I was just like, bro, what is all of this? Are we safe here? And again, I was probably like 9.
Town, with gambling becoming the new bread and butter, taking a page out of the Las Vegas playbook, essentially trying to become the Vegas of the Northeast and on the
Kind of
beach.
what it was.
Not a bad idea on the surface, but ultimately, it didn't work out.
Right.
Atlantic City's beautiful
killed
ornate
the area,
hotels
no
made
doubt.
way for ultra-modern casinos with no redeeming aesthetic qualities,
Right.
shifting Atlantic City from a picturesque beach town to, well, Vegas with water. And while this was sort of the goal, as I had mentioned, I think it's fair to say that it went down that route far too literally. These buildings were obnoxiously out of place and made the town feel eerie, and the disrespect these developments had on Atlantic City's cultural heritage doesn't take a history buff to notice and be repulsed by. It looks and feels forced and inauthentic. Simply a lesser version of what already exists elsewhere. To be fair, there was a bounce back period in the 80s when Atlantic City initially went down this gambling direction, but as Vegas only grew exponentially in popularity and gambling became legal throughout the country, Atlantic City missed out once again. And the casinos have largely now failed. And now, rather than having a city that, yes, is a shell of its former self, but at the very least retains the charm and aesthetic of what once was, giving hope for a possible return to glory or at least some rejuvenated spirit, instead.
I mean, the problem is that it's in New Jersey. You guys keep this in mind. I'm from New York. I just, by definition, utterly have disdain for New Jersey, and I don't even know why. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know, bro. It smells weird. But the thing is, guys, all right, I don't think that there's going to be any type of comeback for this place. It has to be something else. They have to create something that can, bring that type of money that once was flowing through this area back, guys. But if you look at it, it's all completely decrepit, and obviously is suffering through some type of blight. And the last time I even thought about the place, it was full of crime. Like literally, the last time I thought about it, before now, okay, in my head, this was a crime-ridden place, and don't go here under any circumstance.
Instead, you have a city, a shell of its former self that's more than half empty, and with dystopian-like skyscrapers dotted around where great buildings once stood. It's severely underappreciated in America just how insane and dramatic this is. This is how Atlantic City has transformed over the years.
Showboat. Yeah, this is beautiful, guys. This is unique. Yeah, this is incredibly eerie. I'll let you know this now. Yeah. The good old pier entrance. Yeah. You see what we did, guys? Like, this is what the mark of just like massive amounts of rampant capitalism has done to a lot of these beautiful places. Look at this. Yeah. It's sad.
Perhaps Atlantic City, with rising competition, had no hope in maintaining its previous high status, but in trying to cling on to changing demands, it wound up shooting itself in the foot time and time again, raising its beautiful streets and hotels, building ugly with no regard for the town's history or previous redeeming qualities, and simply transforming Atlantic City from the seaside playground that America had fallen in love with to towering gambling dens had put the nail in the coffin, rather than adapt and progress the city as was hoped. We've discussed on this channel before how many great cities and towns have also had to adapt and take on a new life as decades, generations, and centuries have gone by, but that in doing so, their beauty, heritage, and aesthetic culture were maintained, and if not, were enhanced, but in a way that carried on the previously laid out building traditions. This can refer to Venice no longer being a financial hub, but still a thriving tourist destination. London
Yeah, to a certain extent. Specifically, the Venetians do not like us tourists coming to their area. I'm gonna be honest here; they don't like it. We're destroying every single thing around them. Every time these gigantic cruise ships come into the port, guys, you can I think enjoy Venice from afar. Let's go ahead and leave them alone, guys. They really don't like us there.
refer to Venice no longer being a financial hub, but still a thriving tourist destination. London rebuilding itself after the Great Fire, Haussmann building the great boulevards of Paris, or San Francisco moving away from shipping and into technology. But this list can go on and on and on. But rather than adapt and enhance, Atlantic City destroyed and abandoned. That's the core of the issue here. I think ironically that had Atlantic City hadn't changed anything, maintained its historical hotel buildings and neighborhoods, its family-friendly environment, and even so far as a strong rail
Bro, are those adult? Wait, hold on. What is that?
hotel
What are those things that they push kids in? What? Oh man, my brain just completely just shut off, bro. What are those things that they push kids in? Strollers. Oh, strollers. Are these adult strollers?
buildings and neighborhoods, its family
This one, that's what that is, right? For what reason would you need an adult stroller? Maybe like early wheelchairs, maybe, guys? Potentially. But maybe not, because you have to step up to get into it. This is such an interesting thing.
friendly environment, and even so far as a strong rail system to bring people in and out of the place, that it would be extremely successful in the present day as both a beach destination for Philadelphians and as a rare slice of the classic Americana experience for people to enjoy. As someone that spent much time in Santa Cruz, California, a touristy beach town with an iconic boardwalk and a fair amount of historical and classically styled buildings, I have seen firsthand that this demand is there. Just look at this hotel that's being built there, for example. Beautiful, and an authentic classical style that is home in California. While it's always easier to say these things in hindsight, I'm also not necessarily blaming Atlantic City. It went through a period of decreasing popularity and simply looked towards the trends throughout the rest of the country and how to develop to try to fight back. We all know now, decades later, that these methods of prioritizing automobiles, destroying iconic buildings, and creating modernist and ugly places is just never going to be the answer. Nobody wants to hang out in a place that looks like this. Sadly, it's probably just too late for Atlantic City to ever bounce back now, but we can learn from this. Being distinctive is the key for placemaking because it creates character, identity, and something memorable. In bad times, cities with a rich history and culture should adapt, but never destroy or disregard what made them distinctive. And this, I think, applies to almost all cities and towns throughout the world, as modernism threatens to remove the distinctive culture and aesthetic of places wherever it touches.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
And of course, a shout out to my master architect patrons, Michael Goldman, Jean Baptista, and my dad.
Respect.
This is
All right, guys. Well, this was definitely very, very well put together, sir. Again, the name of the channel is Alexander Rotmanez. I'm going to go ahead and say that's the pronunciation of it. All right, but either way, this is an old tale, I would say, right? I mean, you can imagine that you built something really amazing one time, but then you tore it down to basically keep up with the trends. And this is kind of why I generally tell people, if you want longevity in something, you never really want to, let's say, focus on exactly the trend. You want to create something that's considered evergreen. And I do think that the video that you guys sent me today here is probably one of the definitions of evergreen content. This was very well put together. I think very well researched. Please go follow this guy. He has something here, right? I think that the way he delivered the story and the history of this area here was absolutely amazing. I learned a couple new things. I did not know the Monopoly thing. And then towards the end of the story, he basically put the end of the history lesson. Right? He basically put a button on it by trying to tell you guys, don't follow the trends. That's the downfall. That was the downfall of Atlantic City. Purely, they followed a trend instead of keeping what made them, guys. Right? But that's the reality. But all right, listen, guys, let me know in the comments what I should be checking out next. I'll jump into that immediately. And you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. This is my lightsaber. Hey guys, you guys subscribe to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Oh, also, Mr. L. Boyd Discusses. Guys, check it out. And if you haven't heard it today, you're amazing.